In the previous videos, we mentioned about the importance of a good literature review in order for you to carry out a good research. You will need to conduct an effective search in order to acquire the relevant publications. There are some techniques for you to acquire as many publications as possible, which is relevant to your study. After you have acquired the relevant publications, you will need to read through the articles, acquire the importance point, make comparison among different publications in terms of the findings, acquire understanding of the principles and theories related to the subject that you are studying, and identify the research gap. This will involve the technical reading, which is known to be quite challenging due to its nature of fragmented informations, as well as the complexity of the knowledge. As a result, you will need much effort and time for you to fully understand the subject. It was mentioned that there is also techniques to help you with the technical reading, which you don't have to read words by word from the start to the end. In fact, you can rearrange the sequence of reading in accordance to the purpose of the reading, as well as the stages of your research study. You are also introduced with the idea of searching for the right information from the right section, as different sections of the papers serve different purposes, and the type of information given in different sections of the papers is also different. Now let us assume that you have done the two processes of performing the effective search, and you have gone through the effective reading, where you have already acquired some initial ideas of the subjects that you are studying, having some prior knowledge in terms of the working principles behind it, and you have concluded the gap of research study. Now you are at the stage of conceptualizing your research, where you are going to design for your own research with the intentions to contribute to the knowledge within the field. With that, you will first need to know what constitutes a good research. There are three elements here. First, a good research must have new knowledge at the center. Second, it is accepted by the researcher community. Third, it is recognized as significant. You know that it is all about developing or formulating knowledge, and this must be something new. You are offering the new knowledge to the research community, which is helpful for them to step one step further in the journey of understanding the subjects for the benefit of the society. From here, you will see the characteristic of a research, which is original, as you are to offer new knowledge. Significant, which must be impactful to the entire research community, and it is built on certain problem where this kind of problem needs to be solvable, having some objective and purposes of the research, and this objective needs to be achievable. That means the research must be realizable. It cannot just be some talks without any actions. And then you will need to read a lot of literature in order to bring together the significant problem, the knowledge that will address it, and also possible ways to make the new knowledge. At this stage, it will be very much dependent on the researcher. Different researchers may do the research differently, and there is quite a variety among different researchers, even though within the same field of study. They may identify the problem differently, where they intend to address different problems. Some may try to address the same problem with different emphasis of the sub-problem or different stages of the problem. Even though they are addressing the same problem, different researchers may adopt different knowledge in order to address it. They may adopt different approach to achieve their objectives. And in terms of the methodology, there are also various ways to make the new knowledge. However, the differences between different researchers, the important elements to conceptualizing the research, will basically constitute these three elements. Now that you know the element constitutes a research, we must also have an idea in terms of the levels of the postgraduate study. You know that the postgraduate study consists of PhDs and Masters. You may wonder what is the differences between the PhDs and Masters. You might also wondering what is the differences between the engineering and the non-engineering. Maybe let us differentiate the engineering and non-engineering first. I would say that engineering is more applications oriented. It involves the use of the scientific principles, such as the laws of physics, mathematics, sometimes chemistry, and others, in order to design and build machines, structures, and other engineering products as a solutions to some engineering problem. The research is normally related to the real problem in the reality, which you need to diagnose the problem, analyzing it and translating it into some scientific principles, which later you can synthesize the principles, work on it, and develop some solutions to overcome the problem. These solutions must first to be theoretically valid, workable and achievable, and you have good reasons to believe favorable outcome as a projections from the theoretical background, particularly in the areas of the applied mathematics, applied science, and some common sense. The next step it will be trying to realize the solutions. This involves designing and building the engineering products or developing the models on basis of the respective theories and principles, putting the pieces together in order to make the systems work. This kind of engineering products or system can be an actual thing or something virtual, such as simulated models or operational flow, which can be used to solve the engineering problem. The entire process here will need to base on strong scientific principles, not only to ensure the systems work, but also to ensure the efficiency and effectiveness of the system. The system must meet its purpose, and there is a lot of fine-tuning in order to minimize the waste, particularly in terms of the energy and cost. During this fine-tuning process, several significant governing factors are identified. Some variations may be made by adjusting these parameters in order to observe the effects and outcome due to the changing parameters. The process here is to identify the most optimum operating conditions of that particular system. And then after that you have realized the respective solutions, you will have to test and evaluate the solutions, whether it met the purposes of solving a particular problem, what is the performance of the system in terms of the achievement, capacity, or efficiency. This is important As the ultimate goal here, you would like to know whether the proposed solutions is applicable, where are the limitations of the systems, and any possible improvement for the system. Another thing about engineering research is the validity of the measurement. It is typically involved with a lot of sophisticated measuring tools or instruments, which is very objective in some sense, such as measuring the distance, the pressure, the temperature, the force, the mass, densities, and others. You will have to choose the right instruments to do the right measurements, measures to an adequate level of accuracy, where the measured outcome is highly consistent, even though the measurements is done at different time by different researchers. That means the readings and data are normally more objective and reliable as long as the measurements is done correctly and rigorously. In terms of the evaluations of the solutions, it will have to be done also objectively and also in measurable manners. There will be critical performance criteria being identified, and the level of achievements of the outcome may be quantified. It is noted that all the measured results are computable on basis of some scientific principles, which can actually be derived, transformed into some explainable concepts, and most of the time, the projections and predictions can be made through the mathematical derivations. I guess this should give you some ideas regarding the engineering research. Simply said, it is meant for engineering applications to solve some engineering problem by using some engineering approach, and this kind of solutions are normally specific to that particular problem. Next, we will need to discuss the differences between the PhDs and Masters. I would say that both PhDs and Masters will need to cover all the aspects that I mentioned just now regarding the engineering research. Only that the PhD will have to go one step deeper to conceptualize the knowledge. That made the PhD and Masters different. Instead of identifying the problem, proposing solutions, evaluating the solutions, you will need to look into deeper at the knowledge level regarding the working principles, governing theories. You will need to provide detailed explanations on the concepts, cause and effects, and other governing factors leading to the observations and the findings throughout the research. This doesn't mean that the masters do not constitute the conceptualizing the knowledge. In most of the masters, this is also covered, only in a more simplified manner. Having the heads and tails understood, you will need to simplify the complex relationship between the parameters and the elements into some simplified theories and perspectives, which may one day be applicable in other problems having the similar nature or characteristics as the problems that you are addressing now. It not only explains why this and why that, it also provides a possibility and potential applications beyond the problem or even beyond the field of study. That means it covers a broader context as elevated from the solving a particular problem, which may be used for the other applications having the similar problem. Because of this, PhD students will have to read more, spend more emphasis at the concept and the knowledge level while doing the literature review, looking into details in every single aspects, particularly all the constituting factors and parameters that you encounter throughout the research study. Therefore, the PhD students normally require a longer time to complete their research. Since that we have discussed about the scope of PhD, Masters and Engineering and Non-Engineering, maybe we can also touch a bit on the differences between the research and the project. First of all, a research is an systematic investigation of something in order to establish facts and reach to new conclusions. The emphasis here is to formulate the knowledge. As for the project, it normally involves designing and building things for some applications in order to solve an engineering problem. Of course, we are referring to the engineering research and engineering projects. You know that both the research and the project constitute elements of knowledge and principles, designing solutions, and some research involve building things as well. The differences, it will be the emphasis and the ultimate goal of that particular task, which the emphasis for the research is the knowledge and the emphasis of the project is the solutions. Under some circumstances, the research itself can be a project, as it also constitutes the characteristic of a typical project, where the scope of research is well defined. There is a specific set of resources available to meet the scope, and there is a defined period for the research, and also there is a desired outcome and standards as expected from the research. Most of all, the research itself is also unique and having clear objectives. What I am saying that is, depending on the emphasis, a specific task can be pure research, pure project, or both research and project. Next, we will discuss a typical process of a research. There are basically three main components. First is the problem, second is the methodology, and then the third, it will be the findings. The problem is normally engineering related, specific, and of real applications. Based on the problem, you will expect the solutions to encounter the problem, and then you will need to evaluate the effectiveness and the performance of the solutions. Then comes to the methodology of the research. How do you evaluate the solutions and how to develop the solutions? There are various ways to carry out the research, such as through experiment, through numerical analysis, through simulating the models, through analytical derivations, or through building things. The research needs to be carried out in the rigorous manner, trying to minimize all the possible errors and mistakes that can alter the outcome, and the evaluations of the performance of the solutions needs to be justified. It is so that in the case that the solutions found to be not meeting the requirement or expectations, it will be purely due to the problems or the limitations of the solutions, which should not be contributed by other factors, such as poor quality of workmanship, inaccurate measurements, flaws in the methodology and procedures, and others. Lastly, we come to the finding. Whichever the outcomes of the research, whether the solutions is applicable or not applicable, we are still able to obtain the findings. And the findings are normally knowledge-based, and it is all about the knowledge. And this knowledge needs to be something new, which you can contribute to the research community in getting a better understanding on the subject being studied.